Okay, well, you know what? It's 10 o'clock. We've got 43 people here. I'm going to just go ahead and get us started. Welcome, everyone, um, to the Pastel Society of the West Coast General Membership Meeting. And our general membership meetings are held on Zoom quarterly. And we just usually have a few announcements to make, and maybe we'll, field a couple questions. But then we usually go right into a demonstration by a fabulous artist. And we have one of the most fabulous artists going to be doing a demo and answering questions and chatting with you this morning. So we're really fortunate in that regard. I'm Pam Comfort, for those of you who don't know me, right here waving. I'm the president of Pastel Society of the West Coast. And Sabrina, give a wave. There's Sabrina, our vice president. And I'm camping right now. So I'm going to get us started, but at some point I might need to duck out, and then Sabrina's going to take over as hosting because checkout is 11. So, I just want to mention a couple of things we have coming up. You're going to want to keep an eye out on our website. The calendar's been updated, and also there are pages that explain our We Talk Art interview series, our challenges for this year, workshops that we have coming up, our general membership meetings, and who's going to be doing demos, and our magazine, a whole variety of things, regional activities that are happening. Coming up soon on April 21st, Lynn Diefenbach is going to be interviewed by our wonderful Bonnie Griffith on our We Talk Art series. So you want to put that on your calendar. And then we have a challenge coming up too. April, is it April 1 to 10? Is April our challenge?
Yes.
Okay, April 1 to 10, another challenge starting. And our magazine is due to be released in any day now. And so we'll be posting on Facebook when it comes out with a link to where you can see it. You can view the magazine digitally online on our website, or you can purchase a hard copy for yourself. And the Moose Show, which is, recently opened, will be a part of that magazine. Also serves as the catalog for our show. And just for those that have been asking, Pastels USA, our big 99 Voices show this year, it won't be held in late summer. It'll be held in the fall. So it's actually like October is when it opens. So we'll be opening our call for entries on June 24th. So watch for that. Any questions from anyone? I see one thing in the chat. Let me just double check. Okay.
No.
Thanks, Cindy. Okay. Well, so then without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Kim Lordier. And do you say Lordier or Lordier?
However you like it to be. I say Lordier. My in-law, my father-in-law says Lordier. My mother-in-law says Lordier. So my husband says whatever we call him. So
okay,
I've been called worse.
All right. So yeah. Kim Lordier.
Well, first of all, oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, I don't think she needs much introduction. If you've been around pastels or art even at all, you've heard about Kim. And if you want to hear more about Kim, be sure you do look for our magazine coming out soon, because she is our featured artist. Yes. All right. Take it away, Kim.
No. Very grateful for that honor. And I'm very honored also to be here in front of all of you guys. Thank you very much, Sabrina and Pam and the board and what's that?
Please do mute yourselves now, folks.
Oh, sorry, I thought I heard somebody say something. Just thank you guys so much for this honor and the opportunity to share a little slice of my creative journey with you guys. This is it's an honor to be in front of you all, and I know I'm in with family. The pastel world is quite a family, and this is a gift that we all have and give each other. So thank you very, very much. I have planned I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what I hope to present to you guys. And I'm going to share a demo that I pre-recorded because I am not able to, I don't talk and paint at the same time very well. So I kind of sped all the painting part up, and then I'm going to be talking over that in person. So if people have questions, I'm happy to answer questions, and I'll share, of course, my process with you guys. But leading up to that, I have a couple artists that have been my inspiration over the years that I'm going to share a couple images from them. And in my investigation, I found a surprise within that I'm going to share. So I'm going to share a couple of still photos with you guys, my reference photos, and then move into the video. The video's, about a half an hour long. So if I don't put you guys all to sleep, that will be great. So should I go ahead and share my screen? Is that
Yep, we got it.
okay? And I don't really know what you guys are seeing, so hopefully you can see the slide well enough. If somebody can watch the chat and just have a couple thumbs up if you can see the image pretty good. I'll see if I can make it bigger. So I'm presenting the demo I'm talking about is basically painting snow and water, and I'm just going to talk about a couple artists that have inspired me over the years that I look to for inspiration. And one of them is Willard Metcalf, who's an American who was an American impressionist in the late 1800s, and he studied in Boston at the Museum of Fine Arts and later at the Académie Julian in Paris. He's taught at the Art Students League in New York and was part of the Old Lyme Art Colony in Connecticut. And one of the things that has drawn me to his work over the years is that how he designs with large, bold shapes, and he utilizes the edges of his shapes to create poetry. And let me see where the next one. Sorry, I'm not completely adept with doing all these different screens. So you can see in this image, it's simple shapes, but there's a lot of beautiful stuff going on. And what I really love about, oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. I have a beautiful, another beautiful painting of Willard's that's really key to showing you guys what this light is about. I'm sorry. Oh, well, I'm just going to have to move on. So Willard Metcalf and a lot of his snow scenes have been quite inspiring to me over the years. And if you go and take a look at his work, just Google his work and images, you will see that his landscapes are filled with light and air. And in my opinion, he achieves the quality by controlling the value structure of his paintings. And that's something that I really try to do in my own work. Shoot, okay, I'm gonna move on to the next artist because unfortunately I don't have the slide that I wanted to talk about. What's that? Okay, I'm gonna go on to Fritz Thalo. He's a Norwegian impressionist of the around the same time, late 1800s, early 1900s. He's most known for his depictions of the rivers and byways of northern France. And over the years, I've studied closely how he uses the movement of his water to design with. Similar to Metcalf, he uses large shapes for simplification, and he vibrates temperature shifts to create the shimmering effects on his waterways. The cool thing I found out about him when I was kind of putting together this presentation for you guys is I didn't realize it, but he also paints in pastels. And his next couple slides are of his work in pastel, and you can see how, I think I have my little cursor. You can see how he's still, kind of vibrating colors, even with the pastel in his work. And so that was kind of an exciting thing that I found yesterday. Um, I really encourage you to check out. Here's a one of his oil paintings in the snow, and I just love how he designs with these beautiful big shapes and the rhythms here in the water, and how he utilizes the movement of the water to help lead our eye in and through and around his paintings. And when I was doing the investigation yesterday, I found this pastel painting of his that was really exciting, of the same scene. So I'm not entirely sure when this was painted. I couldn't find the year, but I almost wonder, and I will be investigating further to find out if he painted maybe his pastels on location. But that was kind of uh, fun surprise for me yesterday. I've studied his water, and I also Thalo uses large shapes for simplification, and he vibrates the temperature shifts to create the shimmering effect in that water. I encourage you to check out his work as well. See how he uses a limited palette to create his beautiful harmonies in his work. I'll go back to this first one too. Just that beautiful little bit of warmth back here within all these cools. And I'm just going to throw in. I just threw in two images of mine that you can kind of see the influence of my snow paintings. I've got this one called "Delicately Played," and this piece was inspired by the drama of a winter storm from the Pacific Northwest. And I really love when painting snow, when the sky is really darker than that ground plane, because we don't usually get that opportunity to paint that, in other seasons. And I love how that dark sky is a great foil for the light values of the snow. I've also really had fun getting into portraying the muted textures of ice over ponds and streams, and I've been playing a lot with that, um, over the last few years. And then this next painting is called "Kind of Like Diamonds in the Sky," and I think you can see the influence of Thalo in my work here. Just studying how he use design in the water, and how the interest in the water helps to lead your eye up to kind of where I want the viewer to go in my work. So I'm going to go now to the next slide, which is going to share my reference material for you guys for the demo. Are there any questions right now for the couple artists that I shared with you? Okay. So this scene is part of the Merced River that runs through the Yosemite Valley, and this particular area that I've painted and many times over the years in all seasons is called Devil's Elbow. And if you were to look, if you were to kind of come to the right over here on the bank and look down this way, you can see the Cathedral Peaks. But what I wanted to keep the demo kind of more just talking about painting snow and water for you guys. And let me see if I can. And the reason I chose this photo to work from is because there's simple, large, big shapes, which is what I look for when I'm out on location or working from photographs. And I kind of see this as a 3-value painting. And during the painting process, I try my best to stay within those values. This next photo is, let me see, we're at Mountain Stream. see if I can get this up, is a better photograph that shows, you know, the color in the water that I was experiencing when I was on, you know, on location. And so I'll be using both these photos as my reference for the demonstration moving forward with for you guys. So now I'm going to switch my screen over, see if I can do this. Unless there's any questions about the reference material. I'm going to go into the video portion, and I'm going to talk about the stages that I have going on here. See if I can push play. Okay, this is pretty speeded up, but what I'm using is a bottle green new pastel to lay in my initial sketch. And I first map out the center. You can see those tick marks right in the center, and dividing. I like to find the center of my painting on each side, not just the thirds. And right now, I'm referencing the photograph, but I'm not thinking about things like trees, bushes, branches. What I'm thinking about as I'm doing the sketch is I'm thinking about the movement moving through the painting, in and around. I want to do my best to keep each shape unique. That's one of the things that this reference already has in favor for me. One of the things I've just had it was just blessed to have a few people in a workshop. And one of the things I was trying to share with people is when you're trying to work with waterways, is to make sure that it's at some key places. I thought I could make a mark on this with my cursor. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor. There's got to be some places, instead of making a mark, a curve, a literal curve for the waterway, you want to make sure you're creating overlapping forms. Now I'm preparing for the underpainting, and at this point I'm still using the new bottle green new pastel. It looks kind of black or like a charcoal, and I'm just lightly glazing in on top of the shapes here with a little tone. And then I don't want to use too much pastel at this stage, because when I wet the pastel with turp, it will spread beautifully and not fill the tooth of the sanded paper. I'm using UArt 320 grit paper that is dry mounted to an acid-free foam core. And right now I'm bringing in a softer pastel. Again, not applying it too thickly, because I know once I wet this, it's gonna spread. This is funny looking at this, afterwards, and seeing it done so quickly. Let's see. I could stay with this bottle green color to create the monochromatic underpainting, but I decided midway through to set up for a little bit more of a local color painting. And go ahead. Is there a question?
No, no questions.
Okay, great. Yeah, so just reestablishing a little bit more tone. I think I come in and do a little bit more in the water, and maybe not. That's okay, just establishing my dark shape there. And again, still applying the pastel pretty lightly. Introducing some I have it. I like to work darker, so I'll set up all my underpainting, and even when I start to paint. Oh, here's the reference again, so you guys can kind of see.
Kim, we have a question about the paper that you use.
Yes. It's UArt sanded paper. It's dry mounted to acid-free foam core, unless I'm working larger than the full sheet. which if I'm a full sheet of UArt is 27 by 40 inches. If I'm going larger than that, I will have it dry mounted to gator board. So I think now I'm going to come in with hopefully did I start this? There we go. Sorry guys, a little clumsy. I hope you don't mind. So here's the underpainting, and I like to use my brush as if it's an extension of my arm. So you'll see my arm doing a lot of there'll be a lot of movement at this stage. There's nothing that I'm committing 100% to. I'm just thinking it as dark shape, middle value shape. Yeah. And I don't mind if my snow is getting a little bit muddy from the warms and cools. It's getting, like I mentioned earlier, I like to work, from dark and build up to my lights. I think that's how one of the ways that I am able to create the illusion of glow and light in my work is making sure that I'm painting a little bit darker than where I want to go to, because I utilize in a scene like this my lightest lights to help lead the eye around the painting. And that I always try and reserve a lot of those lightest lights towards the end of the painting, because then I can control the viewer's eye with those basically highlights. Like when you're painting the figure or doing a portrait, you're always encouraged to wait to put the highlight in the eyeball, and it's much the same thing. So I'm just kind of filling up the board here. Again,
Kim, we have a couple of questions.
okay.
Do you often work from more than one reference for a painting?
Yeah, there's a lot of times I'll have 3, 4, probably never ever more than 4 up on my computer. And then if I have a plein air study or something that's relevant to the scene or the time of day, that will be up as well. I don't ever scale up my plein air work and redo it, a larger version of it. I always want to have, for me, I always want to have a new idea that I'm working, a new concept, a new reason for the next painting to be had.
Okay, and then another question that we have is, do you prefer terpenoid over alcohol?
And the right gutter with the right bracket and last a long time.
Somebody's phone or
So Doreen needs to mute.
Sorry.
there we go. Thank you, Dorian. Oh, the question.
Terpenoid
Versus, yeah. I love the terp because it's just a little bit oilier. Let me do this. I'll just go back to that so we can talk about that. I love the terpenoid because the way it breaks up the physical properties of the oilier consistency of the terpenoid breaks up the pastel in a way that to me has a much more poetic movement with the brush. It's a little bit oilier, and it creates the illusion of brush strokes, which is something I'm going after in my personal work in pastel. I don't want some I like it to feel like it's a more of a painting than drawing strokes. And the alcohol, it does a beautiful job as well, but for me it's because it breaks up the pigment a little bit differently, where sometimes it creates a halo around it and it's not as luscious of a stroke. And it's kind of more about feel and what you as an individual artist are excited about, how the mark making is done. I have a couple notes here. I just want to make sure I got everything. Again, in this underpainting, you can kind of see where I'm going with the painting, but nothing is 100% spelled out. I've committed to nothing here except from some very large general shapes. At this stage, once it dries, I'll be able to tell, what shapes are working, where my drawing's gone off, which it always does at this stage. So I'm going to, here's one thing. I'll use a rag. This is like a cheesecloth rag, and I'll lift up if some areas get too heavy with pigment. It's a great way to also create some kind of, gesture and movement of the reflections in the water. It's a terrific tool that I like to use. And then here's my working palette, so you can see my lights and my the poor little so the two bins, the beautiful Terry Ludwig eggplant is in the lower right of the left-hand side. It's so dusty. I should have cleaned these before I taken a photograph for you guys. So my palette, this is my working palette of colors. You see when I started to paint the light and the snow, you'll see, I'm reading from a couple notes here. You'll see when I started to paint the light on the snow, I struggled during the painting process with the warms and cools of the top planes of the snow. I'm going to get into some of my thoughts about painting snow once I get into the painting process, and that I'm going to share with you guys. Some of the light yellows that you see on the left-hand side here just ended up getting, I put a color note of the yellow down there, and it just wasn't feeling right. And for me, color is pretty much that, is does it feel right and harmonious? And all I'm thinking for my color and temperature, or for color, is warmer, cooler, lighter, darker. That's pretty much the mantra that goes through my head while I'm painting. So I think I'm gonna see if I can get this started again. Nope. There we go. So you can see that the underpainting set up and dried, much lighter in value. And now I'm coming back in with that new pastel. It's the forest green one to get. I was redrawing some of the shapes, and you'll see the farther along I get into this project that a lot of the shapes end up changing, but that's part of the painting process. Some of my notes about painting: I like to work all over the painting, finding my palette of colors, and I do my best not to commit or finish any one area. There are many, many different ways of approaching a painting, and I know, we've all seen, great demonstrations and watched other fabulous artists, create their work, and I'm just sharing with you guys the way I like to approach it, and this is mine. It's not right or wrong, just the way I found that works for me. Again, I mentioned my thoughts on color. My inner mantra is lighter, darker, warmer, cooler. And I feel strongly that each color is very much influenced by what it is set next to. So if it feels right to you, then it must be right. I think the more that I'm teaching, I'm really trying to encourage people to, study the foundations, always go back to the foundational principles of painting. But you also have to have the flavor of yourself and the things that are important to you as well. And making note of those things is really important as you move forward in your own creative journey. One of the things I love to do is vibrate color using temperature within each value shape. Are there kind of any questions that people are finding?
Gracie?
We have a question. What brush do you use with the terpenoid?
Okay.
And do you spray with what?
My brushes, I like to use probably a number 6 or a number 8 or a larger filbert. With the standard using these, I use a Robert Simmons Hogs bristle brush because it's stiff enough for my needs, but the sand, don't use something that's really precious to you because the sanded paper eats it up, and typically my filberts turn into pyramid shaped brushes. And then I do use a fixative through, I guess I think I'll just keep this going. I just wanted to show you my reference again here. I use fixative during the painting process. If I intentionally want to darken a shape, I think you'll see it in the video. Let's see if I can speed this up.
Good girl, Gracie. Good girl.
Good girl, puppy. Is that a puppy or a kitty? Sorry, I'm okay, the workable fixative, I use Krylon workable fixative, which is probably one of the most toxic ones out there. I think if anybody's going to introduce fixative into their procedure, I would recommend Spectrafix, because it's a casing based product. It takes a little bit longer to dry, but it is I think it's much more healthier for us and the environment. But I've been using the Krylon Workable Fix since I was 15 years old. And so when I tried some of the other ones, I did not care for the smell, even though the smell with Krylon is so overpowering. But it's just one of those things where you find that one product works for your needs and then you get used to it. And I'm kind of a creature of habit that way.
Kim, we're getting a number of questions on how you use color to vibrate and how do you achieve this effect?
So I wish I could, let me just ask this really quick. Can you guys see just with a thumbs up or yes, can you guys see my cursor spinning around by my hand?
Yes.
Okay, great. So when I talk about vibrating color, it's really important when you want to vibrate. I'm using that term in terms of I'm laying a warm, a cool, and a cool right next to each other. And these three beautiful colors feel really good to me and they're vibrating. But the most important thing to do in this instance, when you're trying to get, luscious, rich color, is to make sure that they sit in the same value. So the majority of this whole waterway shape or this shape is it's going to be a middle value overall, and I'm going to, except for this reflection of the snowbank and what have you, but the majority of this waterway or shape is going to be middle value, and I'm going to make sure that where I want my warms and cools, even if the photograph is giving me more bright highlights and stuff like that, I'm going to keep all of this as close to middle value as I possibly can, and see this warm sienna and this warm green, but when I squint my eyes, these colors kind of disappear into an overall value, and that's the key to vibrating colors, making sure that it stays within that value. I'll use I'm not a big, I don't like to rub everywhere. There's a lot of artists that create beautiful work, rubbing whole shapes and stuff like that. So they get a nice smooth consistency. I like a little bit more texture and variety of edge in my work. And so I'll use my finger to rub an edge, but not a whole passage. And then you'll see every once in a while I bring the wooden edge of I also use my brush, the bristle part of my brush, and then also the wooden end of my brush to soften an edge. And you'll see that during this process as I move forward in developing. And you're going to see me coming back and forth, light, the light shape, the shadow shape, the light shape, and shadow shape. A lot of people plan those shapes out, and sometimes I'll be more deliberate about that particular plan. But for me, I kind of creep up to these shapes. I have the general shape, but then I like to allow the painting, you know, midway through to start telling me what it needs, and that's a large part of my particular process. And I'm painting now, and right now I'm not aware of the camera. I'm just kind of just doing my thing. And again, I have a mirror behind me that I reference all the time. And so I like to see the image, you know, backwards while I'm painting. I hope I answered that question about the warms and cools. You can see, I'm going to pause this one more time. You know, again, here's my light shape, a light shape, and you can see that I have introduced a lavender and a pink and a cool blue within this light shape. But when I squint my eyes, all the values stay really close together. So this is what I talk about vibrating color. It'll be a little bit later on when I start to fight with these shapes, how much light and how much dark. Oh, I know I want to get into a little bit of notes about painting snow.
We also have a question about the size of this painting.
I believe this is a 16 by 20. So I'm just going to share some thoughts on, you know, painting snow and the water and stuff, if that's okay with you guys. And then, like I said, if there's a question that comes up, just feel free to ask. So I've spent a lot of time painting water, you know, the ocean, waterways from life, and also studied how others have solved these problems over the years, like Thallow. You know, like I meant, I look to I reference his waterways, Skip Whitcomb, Lorenzo Chavez, George Carlson, all these fabulous artists that have, you know, are artists that I'll look to to help solve problems that I may be coming through or coming upon. Moving elements, painting, you know, water from life, like clouds, ocean, and water, they create their own problems. So it's important, I think, for me at least, to think of the design first and how I want to lead the viewer's eye through my painting. Much like Thallow, I want the water to be believable, but also expressive and add to the beauty of the scene. So when I'm on location, these are things that I'm looking for. And from that practice, you know, bringing these same ideas back into the studio. But when I'm on location, I always take several minutes or longer to study what I'm actually seeing before I start painting, especially when you're dealing with moving water. The things I'll look for are the quality of color, the quality, color, and angle of the light source. I'll look for the brightness, the brightest lights on the water or the snow, or sparkles on the water. Sparkles appear when you notice where the sparkles are after a period of time of studying it. They appear in direct correlation to the angle of the sun or the light source, and they will be the brightest bright out there. They'll be brighter than the white, generally speaking, brighter than the lightest light on, say, a cumulus cloud, if that's up there and out. If there's a white water, you know, in a rushing river, it's generally darker in value than the sparkles due to the particulates that are stirred up from the mud and debris in fast-moving water, and typically will appear more yellow or green. I'll also study what's being reflected in the water, so making note of the way reflections appear vertical. I like to create my water reflections. You just saw the fixative spray in there. The fixative came, sorry for the squirrel here, but the fixative came in because I had a little too much pigment on my board, and I used the fixative to knock back and bring back a little bit of tooth of the painting. I personally have no care about it darkens. That's not important to me. I think if I was painting, you know, high key and really sensitive, delicate work, I think the fixative would probably be a problem. But for the way I'm a kind of a drama queen when it comes to my values and stuff like that, and I will use the fixative to help even drop the value of a light shape so that I have just an incremental value shift. So back to kind of the water.
Kim, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you use pure white? And do you plan your mark making ahead of time, or does it happen as you paint?
Okay, so I mentioned earlier, and this is very, very key in my opinion, and for the way I work, I will not go to my darkest dark or my lightest light until towards the end of the painting. Sometimes I'll put a little tick of it somewhere where I think, or I know it's going to be, like underneath the carriage of these dark this dark upright shape. I still haven't. I think this might be Terry Ludwig's over here on the left hand side where my cursor is. That might be my darkest dark. And I think I've introduced the Terry Ludwig eggplant pastel in this area. But all these whites that you're seeing, and this is because of the camera, and this I'll be talking about this, when you paint snow or white shapes. None of this is white. None of these are my lightest light. I still have a degree of light to go to. So I'll talk about painting snow and how I reserve that lightest light to help lead our eye in through the painting to where I want you to go. Okay, so that was the lightest light. And there was another question there, Sabrina?
Hold on. Do you plan your mark making ahead of time or let it happen as you paint?
Thank you very much. No, I'm in essence a fly by the seat of her pants type of painter. I like the farther along I get in my painting process or my creative journey, I want my mark making and poetry or my expression to be fluid. And so I'm less of I would say a designer. I think of large shapes, but then I want my mark making to express how I move my hand across the painting. So I don't plan those things. And really 3/4 of the way through the painting, I don't hit any one shape hard. I don't commit to any one shape until I'm about 3/4 away. And then the last quarter of the painting is really, I haven't actually finished this painting. It's literally sits in my studio for a while. I have it put aside. I'm usually working on 4 or 5 different images or paintings. And I'll come back to this painting. And those kind of really key marks get placed at the very, very end so that I want to be the conductor of this particular symphony, and I want to tell you how you're gonna, move through my painting, and that comes towards the end of the painting process for me, towards the end. Let me see. Push play again. Sorry about that. I think I'm still working here towards, getting the feeling of, this ice, the mounds of snow, and still finding my way through this piece. And again, the color is nothing more than, warmer, cooler, lighter, darker. I, again, use my finger to soften some edges. I don't know if there's any other questions out there. I'll mention talking about snow. Some of the things that I want to, share with you is that snow appears white to our eyes because light is white. So snow is actually transparent or clear as it's made up of ice crystals. Snow is not smooth and white like our photos show. If you think about what it is, if they're ice crystals, there are many, many different textures created by wind and rain, the thawing and refreezing of snow. Snow is also reflective of all that surrounds it. So the color of the light and the color of the sky will always influence the general color harmony. And when we're working from our photographs, they have a tendency to darken the sky and the shadows. So make sure you're aware of that when you're painting, that you don't get, the shadow on the snow, too dark in value, because that's what our photographs are giving us. In winter, the sun is lower in the sky, making the horizontal planes of snow appear darker in value than the vertical planes that are angled towards the sun, such as a hillside, the snow built up on the side of a structure, a berm, or a footstep. So again, much like water, when you find the sparkles on the water, also make note that if you can see my cursor, my big fat head in the way, areas like here, the light source is coming from the upper left and hitting here on this, where my eyeglasses are, the snowbank here. This I know will be one of my lightest lights in this painting because it's receiving the most direct amount of sun. If you see my cursor is now by where my hand is, this side of this little snow-covered rock or whatever's underneath, the snow here, I know this side of the snow is going to be receiving more of a direct light here, and it's going to turn away from the light source and receive more on the top plane of this shape is going to receive more of the cool light or the quality of the color of the sky. So if I was painting this under a gray day, I know this would be much darker in value on the top plane and grayer or more lavender. Because this is a sun-filled day that I'm painting, the top plane of these shapes, the snow shapes, are going to be receiving the cool note of the sky on top. And that again allows me, say, this little area that's kind of iced over where that's iced over, but you can still see a little bit of the color of the thin ice here. There's this little edge right here. I know moving forward, this is going to be one of my lightest lights here because it helps lead my eye into this painting. So I can now stepstone my way through here.
Kim, we have a question. What brands do you favor for your lightest marks? And do you do thumbnails prior to sketching on your pastel paper?
Okay. My lightest lights pretty generally come from Terry Ludwig pastels, and then the Unison light set. Those are two of my favorite sets to utilize my lightest lights. I like and those end up being my lightest lights that I pretty generally use. I can't think of some of those soft pastels like Schminke or Sennelier, I'm sure offer great lights as well, but my kind of go-tos are definitely Terry Ludwig's and the Unison. And what I like about the Unison light set is that each of the colors within that set has a little bit more excuse me, a little bit more chroma to each of them, so they go a little bit more pink, peach, yellow, lavender, blue, and green. Terry's are super close in their in the amount of colored pigment that he adds to, or that they add to them. So they stay super, super light in value, but not quite as much chroma. But I definitely use both. And then Sabrina, what was the other question? I'm sorry.
The other question was, do you do thumbnails prior to sketching your painting?
So I found that thumbnails, in my working practice, I like the idea of notan, which I'm sure most of you know what that is, but it's, notan is a Japanese term, loosely translated as light and dark design. And that's how I see. I've done many, many notans over all these years. Thumbnails are, for me, I'm having to repeat myself in the drawing process. And that's not as exciting for me. I learned to do notan when I, really first started painting from life, or painting outdoors. And that seems to satisfy my needs for having a plan. And so the notan, I think of paintings in terms of light and dark shapes. And when I'm driving down the road, I can see shapes come together that are pleasing to me, and then they disappear. When you're driving, down 80 miles an hour down the highway, I see a painting come together, coalesce, and then it disappears. And what's interesting enough, I've trained myself to see, light and dark shapes that are interesting to me. I can now go down the road and see my friends painting. If I recognize their work, I can see where they would set up and see how they organize their shapes. So there's a lot of value, in my opinion, to the notan process. My buddy, Paul Cratter, he has the most exquisite sketchbooks, and he does the most glorious thumbnail drawings before he does every painting. And they're beautiful. But there's a period after that sentence. For me, it's the notan. It's seeing the big shapes, and that's what I'm drawn to. And I think that's really important. If I could share that with you guys, is just a little bit of planning. If you're like me, just a little bit of planning is worthwhile, so you kind of have a place to go. But not everything has to be spelled out. And on the flip side, if you love to draw and that makes you feel comfortable, that just little bit of planning is so important, no matter how you get after it.
We have another question. What do you struggle with the most when painting a landscape? Trees, water, mountains?
Yeah, for me, when I teach workshops, I send out a pre-questionnaire, and I'm so grateful that people take the time to actually, send their answers to me. And one of the questions I ask always is, what do you feel are your strengths, and what do you feel are your weaknesses in the painting process? And I know what I need to work on the most, for me, is perspective. Proportion and perspective. I think that's my weak point in self-evaluation. I don't really worry about the things. The tree. I feel I've got a handle on describing the elements that I paint. But usually, if I'm putting in structure or man-made objects, I struggle a little bit more. And sometimes you can see where my brain has shifted into the left brain rendering process versus the more painting process. I hope that you guys understand what I kind of, not sure if I answered that all the way. I just want to share that I like to, when I'm about 3/4 of the way done or close to the end of the painting process, I'll pop my painting into a frame so I can evaluate it. I hope you guys can see my cursor. I can evaluate, this painting's not done here. It's past the gangly stage. I think there's some really good bones going on in here. I can see what my shapes are doing. And because I have this framework in which to judge what my shapes are doing, that's super, super helpful. And then I'll take a look at this in the mirror behind me and study it that way. I'll sit down in my chair and take a look at it while it's in the frame. And the painting really starts at this stage to tell me what it needs and, what elements may need softening, what's coming, what's popping forward. Um, you know, are my values working? Are they traveling back into or do I have too dark of a value back here and it's coming forward? And that's when I start analyzing what needs to, what's working and what's not working here. So I pop it in a frame. Let me see if I can scoot this forward. So I pop it into a frame. See if I can get that. And then I start making some adjustments. I am using my finger to soften the top plane of the snow, just to get a little bit of a smoother effect there. But I don't want to lose this stuff that's going on down here because I like the textures that are happening. And now I'm just starting to refine. I keep the frame on the painting at this point and start to refine some of the movement in the water. And we're getting pretty close to the end here. Just again, I just introduced that nice, I think a real pretty turquoise color that helps to create that illusion of a little bit of an ice bank versus I think I'll show my reference one more time here. And I started just really modifying these edges based on what I want versus what the photograph is giving me. These were all very hard edge shapes moving back into space from my reference. And I like that play of kind of that ice versus the snowbank. Okay, I'm going to pause this. I'm starting to put in those worms. You can see this worm note, if you can see my cursor, these yellows, where the light is hitting on the left-hand side, and then you start to see this cool gradation as we get to the top plane of this shape. And then when I move my hand, but it's working here in the image, but I think I end up going to a wider white, my widest white here, because the yellow was a disconnect, and I think you'll see me get rid of some of that yellow. It was too strong of a yellow in real life in the painting, and I just cooled them down. It's right here. So here's the white or the lighter value. Then I introduce the yellow, and then I come back in, and here's where I reintroduced, if you can see my cursor, the white on top. Now these are my whitest white marks. It's hard to see here. Sorry about that, you guys. But now that whitest white has covering over some of that yellow and is creating a vibration within that same value. So it's still staying a little bit cooler. In real life, it got too warm for what I wanted it to say. And I'm just gonna keep coming in with some detail work. Sorry about my head in the way, you guys. But the video is almost over here. Just put in some detail, and then this piece has been set to the side in my studio right now. And most of what I'll do from this point in time is study it and see what it needs. There's a lot of good stuff going on, but there's some refinement of my drawing that I'd like to attack. And see what it needs. But that's the last 25% of the painting process, and much of it is observation and very subtle shifts of things. So thank you, PSWC, for the opportunity to share this with you. I'm going to stop sharing and see if we can get back to Zoom land.
Yes, hold on here. trying to unpin you, which is taking me a minute here. Okay. Kim, you're brilliant. We just love watching you. We love your paintings. I was there when the judge in Pastels USA was talking about your painting at the Hagen, and she just raved about the horse and the breath and everything. And hearing you talk about the creative process and how you go about it is just so enlightening and makes me feel creative, which is, I hope all of you share that. I'm going to attempt, I'm not sure if I can do this. I'm not sure how to do this. I'm going to try to unmute everybody and let you have some time to ask questions.
Can I say one thing while you're working on that, Sabrina?
Sure, sure.
I just shared or just did the screen here, and I just want to make note that I'm grateful. Lorenzo Chavez is here with us.
Yes.
And it's a big, I mean, I'm honored that everybody's here, but he is one of the artists that inspired me tremendously and continues to do so with his brilliant work in pastel and now in oil. And I just want him to know that I mentioned him earlier today, and I'm just grateful for you being here, Lorenzo. Thank you so much. He continues to inspire me, and he's a great resource that we have. And he was my very one and only workshop I ever took in pastel. The handful of workshops I've taken over the years have been in oil. And Lorenzo was he was key, very, very key for my my process moving forward. So I just need to say that I just saw his name over here. I don't know if he's still here, but just thanks. Oh, there. Anyway, thank you. I mean, thank you, everybody. So sorry, Sabrina, for interrupting that. I just
Oh my gosh.
to share that.
So if any of you, you can, I think you have to unmute yourselves. If you want to unmute, if you want to ask Kim any questions directly, please feel free to do that. It's so great to have, we have 77 participants. It's the most we've ever had at a general meeting. So we're getting there. We're just thrilled that everybody was able to join us today. And lots of nice comments, Kim, about the about you and the demo and everything. So I'm opening the floor to anybody that wants to ask a question. Unmute yourselves. I see Terry Sloat, you have a question?
I do. Hi, Kim. It's really about if you're going to be giving workshops in the near future.
Yes.
Oh, is that a question?
Yeah.
Because I went to your website and I didn't see any workshops listed.
Yeah, waiting for, so yes, thank you. I just finished one, literally one of the reasons my voice is so raspy. I had a three-day workshop that I completed on Friday with a fabulous group of artists. And I'm waiting, the Northwest Pastel Society has me scheduled to lead a workshop in Olympia, Washington, the end of September, but I don't think they have it up on their website yet either. I'm not quite sure what's happening there, but that's what I have scheduled next. But I don't have it up on my website because I'm just hoping that it's still a go. I'm not quite sure where we sit with all that. I've signed the contract, but I got to touch base with them. Let me just share really quickly about my workshops. I teach them quite a bit differently, I think, than a regular, standard workshop. My first day is a PowerPoint presentation in the morning. Thank you, Lorenzo, for I stole from him when he was putting together a workshop and a workbook I stole that, opening up a workshop with inspiration and breaking apart paintings, and kind of like what I showed with you guys here. That's thanks to him. And so I open up with that, and then it's a foundational based. I have a curriculum based workshop that I offer with exercises. And then the second day I do a full demo, and then everybody paints and I walk around the easels traditionally. But on the third day is a very different approach. I mentioned that I send out these workshop questionnaires, and I create what I've now coined my FBI files on everybody. And I've asked for their background and why they want to take the workshop and all this kind of stuff, so that I'll pull them aside and we'll have studied their personal work and have conversation about their personal goals, and it's a much more intimate one-on-one amount of time that we spend on that last day together. And then I also go around and sometimes I give people challenges and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a different approach to that. So sorry, I kind of over talked everything there.
Oh, that's great. I'm interested in signing up.
No, I just like to say, Kim, you've been an inspiration for everyone in the pastel renaissance that we've had over these past 20 years. But my gosh, your rise to stardom has been kind of inspiring for me for sure. But thank you for all of your inspiration over the years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doug. Say hello to Sonia for me.
Will do.
I will tell you what, several years ago, I interviewed Kim for the PSWC magazine, and we had a lovely phone conversation, and she said, oh, so I'm just coming in. I had a painting that I didn't like, that she had worked on Wallace paper. And she said, I was out in the garden hosing off the painting so I could save the paper. I was like, you hosed off a Kim Lordier painting? I'm sure it wasn't that bad.
I'm sure it was. And that's okay. Let me just share this, right? I mean, we all have stinkers, right? It's all a roller coaster. It's the journey that's the most fun of what we're on. It's not about the end result, right? So I think it's much like oil painters can, scrape off their canvases and re-gesso. My UART, the paper that's mounted, and a paintings I'm not happy with, I get my garden hose and put it on jet. I'll have a stack of 30 paintings and just hose it all off and dry it really quickly. And then I have a surface to work on again, instead of just having that stuff stack up in the studio. It's very, it's very cathartic in a lot of ways. It also, I don't know, it also opens you up for more, right? It doesn't, right now my studio is so heavy, and I had a brief exchange with Lorenzo. I think he mentioned that he's going through a rhythm of his own right now, in that process of getting rid of, and that just opens the door for more, and opens it's a weight lifting. It gets stuff off of your shoulders. I need to do that with my closets personally. So, but yeah, the hose, garden hose.
I thought that was just so funny when you were saying that. We all have these artists that we so admire, and you just think they're producing one fabulous work after another because they can. And it was very refreshing to hear her say that. And
no, and I'm telling you that the $20 is in the mail for you, Sabrina, and you guys who are saying such nice things about me. You guys know me a little bit more personally. I'm not always that nice. So I'll pay you guys.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'd like to know, you make such a mark, is this a mark making? When you do the grasses, do you break your pastel to give you a nice sharp edge? Or do you use a finer pencil? Or those are just really nice marks. Thank you. Grasses.
Oh, the grasses, 95% 4% of my grasses are made with the side of a pastel.
Just,
And so
okay,
I think of grasses in terms of a shape, not the thing that it is. My mark making reflects the gesture of what it is. So my marks I'll have the side of the pastel, and a grass is not a literal pencil mark or a sharp mark. It's the side of the pastel, and I'll press a little bit heavier where I feel it will be coming out of the ground. It's a feel. It comes out of the ground. It's that beautiful blade of grass is coming through, but I think of it as a whole mass, and it comes up, and then I kind of do a light lift so it has this softer edge at the top, and then at the very, very end, I'll come in with a little bit of a sharper mark to create a handful maybe of directional lines, or the grass. I must be grass, but I really try to avoid making I must be grass blade, I must be grass blade, right?
good. Thank you very much. Excellent,
Thank you.
excellent demonstration.
Thank you.
Anyone else? This is your big chance to ask Kim any question you want to ask her. Okay. Go ahead, Kastner.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay, go.
okay. Yeah. I've only been messing with art, period, for about 2.5 years. So I really liked pastels when I started with those. And all I've done all my life is just drawn off and on, Yeah, well,
That's great.
so in the last 2 years in using the pastels, I'm booked 3 months or for 4 months out for pet portraits, because I started
Fabulous.
animals. I'm trying to do more what you do. It's gorgeous, but I'm so stuck on detail because my work, and they all look like they're alive, like you could pet them. I keep getting this stuff. God, I thought it was a photograph and this kind of stuff, and I like that. So it's hard for me to loosen up, and how do I do that?
Do you mind if I share my journey a little bit, you guys?
No, go right ahead.
So I painted horse and dog portraits from age 15 until I was 30 years of age. And I did it to help pay for a horse habit that I had. And it wasn't until I started working from life that I really found a personal expression and a belief in myself that I had a creative, that I was creative. I felt that I was copying, and I wasn't. I mean, we're working from a photograph and trying to make somebody happy versus
Right.
ultimately, right? I mean, that's the goal, because we want the collector or the client to be, there's nothing greater than those tears coming when they see their Fido, come to life in this beautiful painting that you've created.
Yeah.
But the biggest gift that I gave to myself to move forward from that was to start working from life and taking and allowing, first of all, to get away from that feeling of rendering everything and the plein air work. And I don't, whether you're an outdoor person or not, if you're not, set up a still life in your studio and paint from life as much as possible, and give yourself a time limit, and just think of those as pure study, not like you're creating a painting. Do them for a half an hour, do quick ones, so that you start to paint your way versus render your way. Does that make sense to you?
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my advice to move forward. Doesn't mean you stop painting the portraits, but it is a way to move forward in how you see, and everything, what we do, what the creative in us is about how we see, edit, and interpret, right? That's the most important thing. That's what says, this is me. This
Yeah,
is
'cause
not the photo, right? So just
Yeah.
utilize that as a problem and a problem solving thing. Keep doing what you're doing, but carve some time out for your personal stuff.
Okay.
Have fun.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, allow it to be what it is, and just tell yourself it's just a study. That's it.
I think that's so important because it's very easy when you start doing work commissions and things like that, and
Right.
you're making money. And so, I mean, that's a lot of us want to do that, want to be able to make some kind of a living. And you get kind of locked in. Don't forget to play. You're allowed to play with crayons,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
I-
as Kim is saying, don't just lock yourself into that. Just have some fun with one that's just a study. That's just
I did, but I did it again from a photograph. I didn't go outside.
Okay. Okay. Set up a still life. First of all, make sure that you're working from life as well. Okay. The
Okay.
photographs are great, but make sure you're observing from life, because there was a handful of people in the workshop that I was teaching that, they don't want to go outside, and I respect that.
Well, I do, but not in the whole.
Make sure you're observing what light does. If you're wanting to create this, believable feeling of light in your work, there's nothing better than Mother Nature to offer that to you. Whether it's just a simple egg on a white tablecloth one day, give yourselves 20 minutes to do that. Then put it
Yeah.
on a blue tablecloth and observe. Put it in different color light so you actually see what's happening. Put an orange on a blue tablecloth on a white table. It doesn't have to be laborious. Just something very, very simple, something quick, so that you're doing some direct observation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's a great question.
okay. Well, it is 11:17. Do we have any other questions? Any other comments about anything with the PSWC? Any questions for anybody here? Okay. Kim, you made my Sunday.
Oh, thank
This
you.
has been a great way to start the day.
Thank
And
you so much, Sabrina.
I can't thank all of you enough for taking the time to join us today. It was great. I hope you feel as invigorated as I do. Getting lots of thank yous in the messages for Kim, how much they love you. You're adored here, Kim.
Thank you. Thank you. It's such an honor to be here. I know I kept throwing Lorenzo's name out here, but I'm seeing a lot of friends here, and you guys are all remarkable artists. So I'm very honored to have presented in front of you. It is a true honor here. So thank you guys very, very, very much for being here and listening to me rattle on.
And Kim, are you going to be at IAPS?
I'm going to be at IAPS.
Well, then
Yeah,
we will.
looking forward to seeing all you who are going to be there.
Yeah, we will see you there.
And tell Pam, I know she had to leave, but tell her thank you for the opportunity as well to that she interviewed me for the PSWC magazine, and that's a huge honor as well. So thank you.
Well, it's been great. I've been working on it. When this meeting's over, I'm going to finish it up. And your paintings are throughout and on the cover. We're thrilled to have you be a part of that as well. So,
Thank you.
all right, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I don't know when the next meeting is, but it's on the calendar. So I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day. Paint, paint, paint. Paint for fun. You don't have to paint for worry. Paint for just fun. All of you are laughing and smiling because we all do the same thing. Every time I get to the easel, I think, okay, this is the Mona Lisa. This is what I'm now creating. And of course it isn't. And I stress myself out. So paint for fun.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.